Wayne, I was watching an interview with you and Steve Kreiner, I know a friend of yours, and you said we invest in people, we invest in smart people, nice people who are trying to change the world. I believe, from what I've seen, 76 Capital takes that trying out because you give them what they need to actually change the world. So my curiosity is, when you were going to Tatnall School in Delaware, right? Did you even ever fathom that you'd be here today changing the world? Like, was that something in your mind, like, I want to make a difference?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show and being part of this. I mean, it's an honor, and it's amazing. I mean, you've done, what, 159 of these?
This is
159,
yeah.
right? 158 up to today. So this is really great, and I'm excited to do this. And I think what you were saying, when I was sharing our philosophy here at 76 Capital about working with smart and nice people and helping them change the world and make this world a better place, that's what we're all about. That's the core of what 76 Capital is all about. And so when I think back to my days at the Tatnall School, as you talked about, in Wilmington, Delaware, and the types of values, the types of things that my mom and my dad, instilled in me. And I was so fortunate to have parents that actually really cared about me as well as my siblings, and always told us that we could do whatever we wanted to do. If we put our minds to it, we can go get it done. And I always thought, wow, living in Delaware, the first state, one of the smallest states in the country, wow, I'm going to break out of here. I'm going to break out of this place, and I'm going to do some really big things.
Now, you started, because it's pre-K is the first grade there.
That's correct.
At the Tatnall?
It started nursery, but I started at pre-K there.
So, you're, what, 5, 6 years old at this time, or 3? I don't really remember those days myself, but going into it, were you scared or nervous or apprehensive? Because, for example, I had an experience of going to all these different schools, but it's so profound to me how you're with what I would think is the same group of people with this culture, what it seems, Miss Tatnall, of the family and the home interrelated. So did you already know what you were getting yourself into, I guess, when it comes to schooling, like have these hopes, or did you get culture shocked right away when you got there?
Look, I was very fortunate. My parents were the ones who selected the school for me, and so I didn't know, and I never knew any different. It was one of the reasons why I actually chose the University of Maryland, because there was 35,000 students there, and I was so excited to go to a big place. I mean, I graduated with 70 students in my class.
Wow, 70 people.
Yeah, and only 70, and most of us had been together our whole lives, and that's great in one sense. And many of us, we still stay in touch with each other. Certainly through social media and other ways, we see what's going on with each other's lives, and we try to help each other. But at the same time, I was so excited to go to a place that was more like the quote unquote real world.
Yeah,
and to go to Maryland and to be able to actually walk around the campus and not know everyone. Wow. Eventually, by the time I was a senior, I got to know a lot of people.
Well, we're going to get into this, 6 degrees away in Kimmel. You definitely got to know a lot of people. Now, my question, though, you got your BA in history. There's a lot of things you could have studied, especially go to higher education. What drove you to history? Was it something that you learned, or do you have a teacher or a mentor and experience at Tatnall that inspired you to pull you there specifically, or how'd that pan out?
Well, my mentor and sort of the guiding light in my life and everything that I've done, and even more so now that I realize, has been my dad. And certainly ever since he passed a couple of years ago, I've now realized, how important and what an incredible influence he's been on me. He's the one who really has instilled the types of values that I'm now looking to pass along to my children, to the whole team here at 76 Capital, and all the entrepreneurs that we invest in. Doing the right thing, being a nice person, trying to help people, trying to truly make a difference in the world. That was my dad.
That translated to you?
And that translated all the way through.
What was his profession?
So he was a lawyer, and he was a history major.
So, there you go.
Wow. So, for me, it was all about following in his footsteps. I was so I am to this day still, in awe of him. He's my guy. He's my, as I said, he's my guiding light.
What are two characteristics that always stuck out with you with your father?
He was somebody who was extremely nice and always took care of other people, always thought of others before himself. And secondly, he was someone who inspired people to want to do great things. And he certainly did that with me and my siblings and my mom and our whole family. And even my kids to this day, and my nephews and nieces, we all talk about Pop.
Wow.
My dad is the guy who was like, wow, we're doing it for Pop.
So was it his idea because you have two sisters and a brother, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did everyone go to the Tatnall School?
My sisters did all the way, most of their career. My brother went to a different school.
So was this like your father thought, let's have the children in a school that had this similar value system? Like, was it his idea?
I think, look, it was partially the school, and I think part of, really just the way that we're taught as we grew up.
So now you're in college. You're studying history. You have the foresight. You're going to go to law school at this time, correct? That's what's in your head. Did you enjoy those specific studies, or was it more of an ends to a means to get to the next stage? Or did you make it what it was? Because you were there for 4 years, University of Maryland. You're in a new place with a lot of people. There's a lot of social things going on. Like, how did you overcome? How did you learn? How did you navigate?
Well, look, being there, I knew that I had to get good grades because I knew that I had to be able to get into law school.
Yeah.
And that was important. But I also knew that I wanted to prepare myself for law school, and I wanted to prepare myself for being a lawyer someday. And being a lawyer, you needed to be a good writer, you needed to be a good communicator, and that was something that you certainly learn in the study of history. You have to write a lot of papers, you have to read a lot, and those are types of things that I knew that I needed to have those skills to be successful as a lawyer.
Did it come easy to you, or was it difficult? And what was that process?
Well, look, I don't think anything comes easy to anybody. I think people are, they're kidding themselves if anything's really easy, or they're really smart and they're much smarter than me.
So you worked really hard.
It's all, look, everything that I do. I can't really speak for other people, but we work very hard. That type of work ethic is something that's so important for what we do here at 76 Capital. It's the kind of entrepreneurs we look to invest in. We want to work with people who want to work hard, who don't take things for granted, and go out there and just try to go make it happen. And that's what we're all about here. Wow. And that's truly what those are the kinds of people that we want to invest in, that we want to help, that we want to get behind. Do
you believe if you weren't that yourself, it would be harder to find those types of people or attract those types of people?
I think you have to be authentic, right? I mean, and no matter what you do. I mean, if you fake it, people can see that from a mile away. For us and for me and for all my partners and teammates here at 76 Capital, we're hard workers. We don't take the easy route just because there is an easy route. We go and we try to make hard things a reality. We try to make the impossible possible. That's what we do here. And that's what I've tried to do my whole life. I mean, the joke was, I remember in my yearbook, you talk about Tatnall. I remember they talk about, say in 30 years or whatever it is, Wayne will come back as, and they said, I'll come back as the Howard Cosell, and I would be the sports announcer, right? And to be in this world now, and look at this,
wow.
And, for some reason, someone was, had figured this out, that I wasn't going to be a lawyer, even though I am a lawyer, that I was going to somehow come back as a sportscaster.
Really?
Being in the sports business.
So someone saw that?
It's literally written in the yearbook.
So now you're towards the end of Maryland and you're going to Widener. Was it already, because you ended up getting out of law and building, and with your vision, building all these amazing things and all these amazing people up. So did you think you were going to get it out of law prior to going to Widener and just push through it? Or did you still have the novelty of law and then turn another way? Like towards the end of because you got your JD, you went through.
Yeah, so one of the crazy stories, and I talk about this in my book, which is called 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel.
I've read it.
And thank you, I appreciate that. And in one of the stories I talk about it was my senior year at the University of Maryland, and I'm in the press box because at the time I was also doing play-by-play for the college radio station for the football game, for the football games as well as for basketball games at Maryland on the college station. And I was in the press box with Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. And at the time, they worked for the Washington Post. They weren't stars of, PTI on ESPN at the time. They were just Washington Post writers. I shouldn't say just. They were, top writers, top sports journalists at that point. And they said to me, "So, kid, what are you doing after you graduate? You going to go work for some little station somewhere and, podunk, whatever, and, be on the sportscaster?" And I said, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to law school." They're like, "That's a smart move. It's a smart move. You don't want to be in this crappy business." Meanwhile, those two are such superstars today. And now with 76 Capital being in the sports world and all the things that we're doing with the incredible athletes that we work with, the entrepreneurs we're involved with, the opportunity to transform the whole industry of sports right now is incredible. And so I look back at that moment. And I'll tell you something, though. I don't regret it for 1 minute that I went to law school. And I give the people the advice all the time to get as much schooling as possible, to learn as much as possible. I truly believe it's so important because not only the things you can learn, but while you're also in school, the types of relationships that you can build, the way that you can actually just start to work with other people and relate with others.
Well, you met Steve?
Steve Krine.
Krine. You met Steve Krine in law school, or was it before?
Yes, Steve Krine and I actually met at the University of Maryland.
Wow.
And we were fraternity brothers. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. So it's our senior year, and I'm not sure if this is in my book or not. It could be my next book. But we're sitting on the roof of our fraternity house. And it was a beautiful spring day. I'll never forget this. We're sitting up there, and we're having this conversation. Should we go to law school or not? And Steve was saying, "Well, of course you're going to law school because your dad went to law school." He says, "Well, I'm not so sure if I should go to law school. I have this offer to join this little tech company in Texas called Apple."
Wow.
And he's like, should I go to work for these guys or should I go to law school? So the genius that I am, I'm like, "Steve, you got to come to law school with me. We'll have a great time together."
Yeah. So what is this, 91, 92?
This is in the spring of 92.
Wow.
And so he turns down Apple and goes to law school in Wilmington, Delaware with me. And,
wow.
And now, look, we've done some great things together, as well as he's taken one company public. He's now building Startup Health, which we're investors in, and he's really doing some awesome things. And I'm just really proud of what he's been able to do. And he's just someone that has been a great friend and someone that we've done a lot of business together.
It's almost as if no matter what opportunities are presented, the character of the individual brings them there. And then that makes, like, listening to your story and then listening to other interviews that you've done and talk about how you're looking for nice, smart people. Like, they have to be both. Can you explain that a little bit, like that philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, the key to what we do, and especially because at 76 Capital, we're looking to invest in the sports tech industry. We're looking to invest in entrepreneurs who want to take ideas that many people will call them crazy. These are some crazy idea. How are you going to do something in the sports betting industry? You're going to build a company in the esports industry? Wait, kids playing video games against each other? What, are you kidding me? That'll never turn into anything. And then what happened, with Fortnite, right? With $30 million cash prize, a 16-year-old getting $3 million from winning a Fortnite tournament. Incredible stuff, right? So it's really important when we find the types of entrepreneurs that we want to invest in. First of all, of course, they have to be smart. But secondly, we want to make sure that they're the right kinds of people, that we want to work with them. Because to take an idea, to take a quote-unquote crazy idea and bring that to reality, that doesn't happen overnight. That could happen, that may take several years to actually get there. And that means that as the investor, and the type of investor that we are, you're going to have to spend a lot of time with those people. And we want to make sure that the right kinds of people. So when at 11 o'clock at night, my phone rings, and I come home from a long day of all the things that we do in the venture capital business and working with companies and looking at new opportunities and meetings and all the things that go on and, lunches and dinners, and that I actually will pick up that phone and try to help that entrepreneur. That's a big thing for us. We got to say, will we answer that call at 11 o'clock at night from that person? And then it's like, does that person actually have an idea, a dream that's actually really, really big? That's this audacious, unbelievable dream that truly many other people will say is crazy. Their mom, their dad, their sister, their brother may say, whoa, their friend, like, whoa, slow down with that. Go get a job, man. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But no, if they actually are thinking that way, that's right in line for what we're trying to get involved with.
Did people doubt you in 97, 8, 9 prior to 76, Cal? Because if you were going to law school and that was what it was your whole life, and then decided to have a crazy idea to be, and I'll quote you, I'm an entrepreneur first, because you started the company as an entrepreneur, not had that experience. You created that experience. Did people doubt you in the beginning, and then how did you overcome that for people watching?
Well, I think the thing is that when you're trying to do something new, regardless of what it is, there will be doubters out there. There will be haters out there. Look, everyone wants to get behind a winner, but they don't want to get behind a winner if they don't know if they're a winner yet, right? So it takes time. So it's not like every single person that I spoke to or speak to even today says yes. Would you like to be an investor with us? Not everyone says yes. Would you like, if we even say we'd like to invest in a company, not all of them even say yes to us on that situation. And by the way, no matter what you do in life, not everyone's going to say yes to you all the time. But again, going back to one of the things that, again, I think, a lot of my personal core values that we try to, we have going on here at 76 Capital. Again, these are things that I've learned from my dad. You got to be tough. You got to move forward. Don't worry what other people say. But I think a lot of that comes from sports as well. I mean, you think about a lot of the things that we do here, and a lot of the characteristics that we embody here at 76 Capital, all around being someone. You have to have incredible passion, right? You got to be really passionate about what you're doing. You got to have an incredible desire and want to go just wake up every day and jump out of bed and go and make some things happen. And you got to have that incredible drive that just no matter what obstacles come, are in front of you, you've just got to go make it happen. And that's what it's all about. So whether someone would say yes or no, I want to be part of what you're doing or not, just keep moving forward. You just kind of deflect and move on. You just keep moving.
So was that your philosophy when you first started?
You have to. Regardless of whatever, it was my philosophy, but it's something that, you just see. So so as an example, one of our partners here at 76 Capital is Ryan Howard, great baseball player who played for the Phillies, who was the National League Rookie of the Year, MVP, World Series champion. But guess what? He didn't hit a home run every single time at bat. There were times when he struck out. There were times when he got out. But then he had to get the mentality of forget that. Next time I'm up, I'm going to hit that ball so far over the fence, it's going to be unbelievable. And that's the sort of mentality that we have. When we think about that every single day, how can we do things that are true, that other people potentially say are crazy, impossible, that'll never happen? I mean, just tell me it's not going to happen and I'm going to go make it happen. Just tell me I can't get somewhere, I'm going there, right? You just challenge me. Just challenge our entrepreneurs, because those are the kind of people we want to get behind, and those are the kind of people that we there are the best types of entrepreneurs. Because one of the things I talk about in my book from a business perspective is that every no is a not yet, or maybe not at this point. At some point, we'll get to yes, right? We'll get to yes.
I remember reading in your book, you would go to the Marriott locally, and you'd have your business cards in your right pocket, and you'd make sure that you gave all of them out, and you got other people's business card that you could put in your left pocket. That was your philosophy for how you built your business. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That kind of was a like an explicit manifestation of your value system. That's how you operated to build this company.
Yeah, it's all about trying to build your network, because business is all about relationships. And the more people that you have in your network that you can reach out to for help, for advice, for guidance, will help you become more successful.
Who were the people that you attracted to yourself in your network in a new industry? It's 1999, it's 2000, 2001. I know there was a bust at some point, and I know you got into it because of technology, right? 94, 95, 98, like this is Netflix and Amazon and eBay and Wikipedia and Google, they're all happening at once. You're like excited. Who are the people that you attracted with all of that excitement? Were there specific mentors and people that you collaborated with to start your first fund?
Yeah, I did have some specific mentors, and one of which was a guy by the name of Steve Goodman. And unfortunately, Steve passed away a couple years ago as well, and he was a great mentor of mine, and he taught me something and said something to me once, and he said to me, listen, if you want to really be good in business, you got to get out there and you got to get to know all the movers and shakers in business. I said, okay. And I went out, and then I used exactly what you just talked about. My way of figuring out how I could actually go out and meet other people and do it in a way to kind of break the ice, do it in a way so that it was less, with less fear, I guess, was the fact that I was able to use my business card. I always say, I use my business card as the best weapon out there, right? Because I could walk up to someone and say, hi, I'm Wayne Kimmel, here's my card. Not knowing what else to say, not sure what else to do, but like that was at least a way to sort of break the ice. And then I was able to say, can I have your card? And then I would get their card and I would look at it and say, oh, wow. And then I could read and say, oh, you're the president of such and such, or you're the head of marketing here. How did you get there? Or what, could we get together at some point? Using that as almost a crutch. Because in many cases, you just don't know what to say. I think that's one of the things, and quite frankly, it's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel, was because I just didn't know what to do in networking situations. When Steve Goodman said, go out and meet everyone, I was like, where do I go? What do I say? What do I wear?
Wow.
How do you do it? Like, everyone always says, go network. Right?
What do they mean?
Okay, great. What do you do first?
So your first thought was, well, let me just hand out my business card. So you came up with that idea.
Yeah, I was like, okay, here's my card.
That's brilliant. It's like, so within the first year, how many no's or not yets did it take to get to that first raise? What did that look like? What are your anticipation? Were you worried, nervous, excited? What's that?
Oh, it was the craziest thing you've ever imagined. I mean, first of all, I would get up in the morning, and my wife thought I was completely nuts. She's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I go to the Conshohocken Marriott. I'm going to the Rittenhouse. I'm going to, I'm going to the Four Seasons." And she's like, "What do you mean you're going there? It's 6:30 in the morning. Why are you leaving right now?" And I said, "Well, here's what happens. Between 7:15 and 9 o'clock every morning, the most important people in the city go to these places and have breakfast." She's like, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, I just started seeing. I mean, first of all, you start to see these top executives, this is where they would go." And then the other thing was, think about it, right? Some of these restaurants are really expensive. Some of the omelets, just to get an omelet, it's like $18. And if you actually got some vegetables inside of it, that could be a $23 omelet. And who can afford that?
Completely. And that year, it's like inflation.
So
crazy.
I'm sitting here going, okay, those people are actually affording that. They can actually pay for that. Maybe they could actually want to be investors and get involved in what I want to go do. So I would go to these places early in the morning at 7:15. I would stand there with my right pocket filled with business cards, my left pocket empty, and there I was. And I would just walk up to people that were walking in, and I would say, "Hi, I'm Wayne. Here's my card." And they would be like, "What? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Can I have one of your cards?" And sometimes they would fumble, and in some cases, the people weren't even there for business. They were there just to have breakfast. I'm like, "Why are you bothering me?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. You can have my card anyway. Maybe we can get together at some point." And my goal was to someday be in a position where I could be the one to invite people to come and have breakfast with me.
Wow.
And that was what it was all about. I wanted to be the one sitting across the table from the CEOs and the business the business leaders that I saw in that restaurant. Because many times when people would say to me, after I would give them my card and we'd have a quick conversation, they would say to me, "So who are you having breakfast with here?" And I'd have to make up a name. I'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know, Jay's coming. He'll be here in any minute. Like, we'll get together." Yeah. And then the next thing I know, I'm like talking to the next person and trying to build my network. Because then, remember, this was the 90s, so many of the business cards that I got, they didn't have email addresses on there. They had phone numbers, fax numbers, and addresses. So then when I would get all these cards and they would be in my left pocket, I would take these cards back to my apartment, eventually my office, and I would send letters or I would make phone calls and say, "Hi, this is Wayne. I met so-and-so today," and I'd be talking to their assistant in many situations. "I met so-and-so today, and I would like to get together with her tomorrow or maybe next week. I can have breakfast with her at the Conshohocken Marriott, or the Radnor Hotel, or the Four Seasons, or the Ritz-Carlton, or the Rittenhouse, or wherever it was." These are all places within the Philadelphia area, right? That I knew this is where the movers and shakers got together in the morning for breakfast. And I would just call on these people and just say, "I want to sit down with them." And they would say, "Why do you want to sit down with them?" And I would say, "Well, I'm in, at the time, hadn't even started my first fund. My first company was called Kimmel Corp. And what was Kimmel Corp? And we used to, we just said, we used to fund and incubate startup internet companies. Not even sure what that even meant at the time, but that's what we did, right? That's what I said. I was chairman and CEO of that company. I didn't have anyone else below me, but that was just me. But the whole idea was to just make sure that I was in a situation where I could be where I believe we are today at 76 Capital.
The vision you've created.
Which was one phone call away from anyone that we needed to talk to. So I want to build out that network. I want to build out our team. I want to build out those relationships so that my partners, my team members here, that anything that we can do for one of our companies, we can get it done for them. If they need something, we can do it. And that's one of the most important things for us, is to be in that situation where we can be one phone call away to help.
Would you say that help is one of the most important, or is that an important asset from 76 Capital to your clients, the companies that you work with and collaborate with and invest in? Because it seems almost like for 20 years you've been building these relationships, having the vision to be able to have a conversation with a stranger to turn it into an opportunity for someone else.
The key to our success and the key to our business is to be able to help our companies. It's not the money. That's not what it's about. It's about how we can actually help them and help them think strategically, help them think about who they need to know, help them with sales, business development, marketing, communications, technology, human resources, whatever it is. Those are the sort of intangible things that we think we can, are really good at.
Help them do what you did.
And just help them get anywhere. I mean, we actually, one of our companies, one of their founders, he jokes all the time. He's like, he needs a separate inbox just for 76 Capital help emails. Wow. And because so many times we'll be out there, and whether that's on the West Coast or in Europe or wherever we're traveling, and we'll meet somebody and we'll say, "Oh my God," and they'll start talking to us about the industry that the company's in, and we'll say, "Oh, well, you don't know those guys? We'll connect you. We'll connect you to the company right away." And so that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves in, to be able to be there, to be a sounding board, to help them as advisors, as mentors, and just be an additional team member to them. And quite frankly, we'd say team, but when we invest in a company, I always say we jump on their side of the table. We roll up our sleeves. We're part of the team. We're part of the family. My Rolodex is your Rolodex. Let's go. How can we help? And we try to finish almost every single conversation that we have with our entrepreneurs we basically say to them is, what we say to every one of our entrepreneurs when we finish up our conversations is, how can we help? And that's important. That's everything to us, because it's all about trying to move these companies forward to accelerate them, to allow them to get above the noise, allow them to get past their competitors, allow them to be successful. It's all about helping the entrepreneur. And that's everything that we do here.
Have you seen, because the great successes like Seamless Web and Indiegogo and Nutrisystem, and there's so many more great successes of companies you've worked with. Have you seen a pattern of how they acted, and then the synergy that was in between 76 Capital and them, and like, is there a pattern that you've noticed?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that our entrepreneurs, whether it's when they're again these are the kinds of companies in the sports tech world that we invest in. Mm-hmm. You look at these businesses, and they're doing something new in esports. They're paving new ground in the sports betting industry, which is this brand new multi-billion-dollar industry, which is just, really ramping up here in the United States right now. These entrepreneurs are doing something that's incredibly hard. They're doing something, again, that maybe people think they're crazy.
Because it's like a frontier.
Because they're literally paving the road, right? They're going down and they're hitting trees and tree stumps and rocks, and I mean it's a mess out there. And we need to be there from 76 Capital. We need to be there for them. We need to be their friend. We need to be their mentor at times. We need to be their board member. We need to be someone they can just lean on, someone they can just call and just talk to. So as an example, when Brian Musburger, who's the CEO of our company called VSIN, and VSIN is looking to become the CNBC of sports betting. And they're creating a sports betting media network. And they stuck a media, network, a studio in the middle of a sports book, just like CNBC did many years ago, putting a studio inside of the stock exchange. That's what these guys did almost 20 plus years later. That's a big thing. It was kind of a crazy move. And there are times when Brian and I will just talk about, wow, can you believe what we're doing here? So-and-so thought we were crazy. I'm like, yeah, just keep moving.
So the big focus is sports on the internet and the disruptions that's occurring and innovating there. Is that correct?
So our focus...
Because you've got a lot of strength in your organization.
Yeah, I mean, our main focus on what we do here at 76 Capital is to invest in sports tech companies, esports companies, and sports betting companies. So we're straight down the middle in the sports industry. That's what we're all about, and that's the focus of where we're moving forward. And why are we focused on this, right? We're focused on this because these are the opportunities. These are the types of disruptions that are going on in today's world. Right now, we're living in a world where, quite frankly, everyone has some kind of interest in sports. Whether they want to play it, whether they want to watch it, whether they want to just be a fan, right? I mean, it's a really interesting time that we're living in right now. It's the sports world brings people together. It creates this incredible community. It allows people to just cheer for your team, be part of something, be and then it's also one of the only things right now that you can't time shift. So you can't time shift sports. Everything else, including news today. It used to be you couldn't time shift news. Now news is just people yelling at each other. But I mean, like, what's amazing is with sports, is that game starts at 7.
Yeah.
It's over at 9:30. That's it. You're probably not going to go back and watch that.
So do you think because of that predictability of when it's going to be, that could create a huge return on investment for anyone that understands how to draw attention of people, like eyeballs to that time? Is what you're saying. This
is extremely unique what's happening right now, because you have not only the time that you can't shift time here, but the innovation and the types of new ways of literally transforming the industry of sports today. There was no such thing as esports a couple of years ago. Certainly not in the mainstream as it is today. There was no such thing as regulated sports betting because sports betting was illegal across the country. You could only bet legally in the state of Nevada on sports.
Wow.
And then on May 14th of 2018, PASPA was overturned, which was the law that said you could only bet on sports in Nevada. And now all of a sudden, there's this incredible, I call it gold rush, or you could call it just the scaling of the businesses of sports betting as it rolls across the country. And it's now, in close to 19 states where there'll be sports betting, whether that's active or will be happening very soon. And more states on a daily basis are getting into this game.
So do you see this industry as in its evolution is analogous to, for example, when you saw Seamless Web before anybody, that became Grubhub. Like before anybody, I was listening to one of your interviews, you were explaining how you were having meetings in a pizzeria, the board meeting in a pizzeria, and it's cold out, and you wanted to advertise because you had the vision for that, and they were like waiting, but it inevitably exploded and no one saw it coming. Do you see that as an analogy to what's happening right now in the sports industry as far as the disruption? Like no one's really...
Yeah, I mean, it's a great analogy. I mean, I think you look back 20 years ago and you see what was happening with the internet.
Yeah.
And you see how there were companies. There's no reason why a company like Seamless Web won the food ordering and delivery business. There were really big restaurant companies at the time. Yeah. There were big tech companies like IBM and Microsoft and GE. Those were the big behemoth tech companies back in the late 90s and early 2000s. That's who was really kind of, they were the kings of the time. And you look at what's happening right now. You have a similar kind of a situation where you have very, very big companies in the sports betting industry. There's some publicly traded companies that are casino companies, there are technology companies that now are going to try to scale their businesses and compete against entrepreneurs who are trying to also get into the sports betting industry. And we're talking about an industry that's going from, a $5 billion industry in Nevada that has been projected by people like the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, to be a $500 billion industry over the next couple of years. So there's a lot of room from $5 billion to $500 billion for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial companies and innovators to do something different. And that's what the opportunity is. And that's what we're investing in here at 76 Capital. Those entrepreneurs who are going after those innovative ideas in industries that are exploding. And one of those industries is the sports betting industry. One of those other industries is the esports industry. Absolute explosion inside of those industries. And they will not, I will say this definitively, they will not be won by the incumbent companies. They can't move fast enough.
The large megaliths.
The large, big companies are not able to do it fast enough. They're going to either buy some of the companies that we invest in, or some of the companies that we invest in potentially could even take some of them out.
Wow. So, something I've learned from watching and learning from your interviews and your book, you talk about air cover. And in the sense of, let's say an entrepreneur that may not have the credibility or power or money behind them as a big megalith, with the right air cover and the capital and the culture that you provide, they do have a chance. That's what it seems like. Could you explain air cover, how you explain it?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, you need to play bigger than you are, right? I mean, as a young startup, you may only have 5 people, but you may have the greatest technology. You may have this idea that actually is going to be bigger than anything else, but you can't just. There are many times you may not be able to get those meetings. You may not be able to kind of get in the door. So what we do here at 76 Capital is not only just help them in those situations, but in many cases, we will attach an athlete to our companies who actually know something about the industry that they're getting involved with. So if we're involved with a baseball tech company like Diamond Kinetics, to have Ryan Howard, one of the all-time home run hitters, and certainly in our generation, to attach them to the company can truly give that company, what we like to call it, is the halo effect. It may just be that little extra thing that gets them to open the door to having Ryan pick up the phone, or having Ryan be on their press release, or have Ryan actually explain how the sensor gets inside the ball, or how the sensor actually works inside of the bat. That sort of expertise, that sort of involvement of a superstar athlete that people love because of all the great things that he did on the field, and to attach that to our entrepreneur's company and enable them to sort of get above the noise, where there may be another technology that may be better, maybe another technology out there that, has more bells and whistles or whatever it is to it. But the fact that we're able to get the meeting, or we're able to get into the room and talk to others because of because of Ryan, or because of some of our other athletes, is a big deal. So that's why we have our athlete venture group. Now, Ryan is our full partner here at 76 Capital. He's involved with us in everything we do. But we have many other athletes that are involved with us in our athlete venture group. And that allows athletes, because the trend today is for athletes to invest in companies. They want equity, right? They don't want to just be, hi, I'm marketing this sandwich, or I'm marketing this drink, or whatever it is. They want to think about how they own something. They want to be an owner. They want to be part of the equity side of it, the upside of companies. So what we do is we give athletes the opportunity to invest with us, for them to learn and truly get involved with companies that they know something about, and industries that they're interested in. So as an example, an NFL running back like Brian Westbrook, who was one of the all-time, rushing leaders for the Philadelphia Eagles, and all-pro, went to Villanova, also played for the San Francisco 49ers, really great running back, great person. He has the opportunity to invest with us, which he did, but then also get involved with companies that he has interest in. So one of the things that he's interested in specifically is he's interested in fantasy football, as well as the sports betting side of things. And he has been involved with us, with our companies, in those industries.
Wow.
And on his own, through all of that, he's now doing his own TV show around sports betting and fantasy.
Well, you talk about shortening the gap between athletes, entrepreneurs, and investment, and like bringing people together. I mean, it's extraordinarily brilliant. Did that idea come from your beginnings? Like I remember in your book that you knew the Suns and Ian Berg.
Ironberg, right?
Ironberg. He knew the parents, and it was like it almost I have like light bulbs flickering. Like you've lived this in a sense where you had this extraordinary relationship to be able to touch so many people. Is that in a sense an inspiration for doing that today, to create this halo effect for the sports? It's brilliant. Well, I mean, you're solving so many problems at the same time, it seems like. Well,
first of all, I really appreciate you saying that, and quite frankly, I hadn't thought about it like that. I really hadn't. I mean, from our perspective, again, business is all about relationships. And also the idea is like, how can you just make things happen, make things easier for the entrepreneur? Because it's very hard. It's very hard to build a company. There's many dark times, as an entrepreneur, again, being told no a lot that's tough. That's a tough thing, to go through. Trying to do things that other people don't understand, even though you're moving in the right direction, that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to sort of just fathom. Like every day you're like fighting this battle, and people aren't understanding, but you're like, well, no, this is how the world's going to go. Do you believe having that mentor-mentee relationship pushes the needle forward at a higher probability of success? Well, I would say, the relationship we like to call is really more of a partnership relationship, and more of a, just how can we help kind of a relationship, right? And it's not like one's above the other, right? Well, that's very different than autocratic or hierarchical. You're growing with them. It's not a positional leader at all. No. That's one of the most important things. I mean, as an investor, we are not heavy-handed. We're there with them. We're there to support them. We're there to help them, but we're not there to tell them what to do. Not at all.
Is that a big misconception in the industry of like venture capital? And
I think it's I think it's definitely a misconception, and I think but quite frankly, there are investors that want to tell their companies what to go do, and I tell those guys to go run their own company. Like, that's not how this works, because we're here to support you as the entrepreneur. We're not here to support. We're not here to tell you what to go do. You're the one you're the innovator. You're the one who's trying to do something that could truly be transformational. Wow, yeah. You're the one, it's in your head. It's not in my head. It's in your head. So I'm behind you. I'm with you. And that sort of being able to deliver that sort of that message and give them that kind of confidence to be successful is what it's all about. Being there for the entrepreneur is something that's incredibly important, because just as we were talking about earlier, a lot of times there's no one there for them. Maybe even their own team is like, wait a second, where are you going with this? Where are you going with this idea? Where are you taking this company? And their team's looking around like, wow, this CEO, I'm not sure they know what they're talking about, right? But then in walks one of us from 76 Capital, and we put our arm around them. Like,
it changes the whole narrative.
This is it. We're going with this. We're riding with this person.
Well, I can reflect even now personally. We've never interviewed anyone in the venture capital space. It hasn't ever been an interest, only because I don't know what I don't know. But I've been following you since we met a couple of years ago. I read your book, and here we are, because I want to learn. I want to learn about the industry. It's interesting to me because of you, Wayne. So it's I guess that's proof in the pudding, as you would say, for what your philosophy is.
Well, I think the big thing. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think one of the big things here is that what we're doing at 76 Capital, as it's about our team. It's about being able to scale our own business and do more for our companies, so that we have even more entrepreneurs that we're able to help, even more people that we're able to help, inspire. We help others to actually go and continue to do what they're doing, and just being there saying, look, it's okay, let's go. I'm with you. I got your back.
What draws you to Philadelphia? I mean, you were born close by. You're raised. What are some of the specific things that draw? Because I saw you on the startup grind, or one of these interviews the last couple of years, and you had some inspiring words to say about Philadelphia and some of the things. I think people maybe don't focus on all the positive, but there was so much positivity coming from you.
Well, look, I love Philadelphia. I've always been a Philly fan my whole life. Loved all the Philly teams. I was right there with everybody else in 2008 when Ryan and the Phillies won the World Series. That was one of the greatest moments of certainly my childhood and growing up. That was amazing to be there. I guess I wasn't a child at that point, but that was pretty awesome.
Power sports, right? It brings you
100%. So Philly has a special place. It's one of the reasons why we call our company 76 Capital, because we're proud that this is the place where the country was founded. The entrepreneurs.
That's what it is. That's what I didn't know that. That's amazing. Yeah. I'm sorry, you got me excited. No. 1776. That's where.
So 76
should have been my first question.
Yeah. So 76 Capital is really all about this idea of the entrepreneurs that had this idea of creating a country, and we're all about getting behind entrepreneurs who want to create the next amazing thing, and whatever that is. Maybe they'll create a country. Maybe we'll get behind. Maybe we'll invest in someone who creates a country. You never know. As long as there's sports there, we're in.
As long as the culture matters. So in 2010 was when you created the company to be 76 Capital. Is that correct? What was the inspiration of that?
Well, I think, look, the inspiration of everything that we do here at 76 Capital really comes down, again, to this idea of working with entrepreneurs that want to do big things in the sports industry. For us, that's what it's all about. And we just think that there's incredible opportunities today. You have new types of owners that own the professional teams, that many of them come from the financial world or the sport or the tech world, who are really thinking big. They're not just buying teams to have a trophy. They're thinking about how can we really build this organization into a really big enterprise. That's something that's really fascinating, what's happening in the world today. You've got the advent of esports today, where it's just incredibly, it's booming, where you have professional, athletes at the esports level who are making millions and millions of dollars. Now you have kids, because of what's happening with Fortnite, making millions and millions of dollars in that space. You've got colleges, 150 plus colleges today will give scholarships to kids to actually go play video games at colleges. You have the world of sports betting now, which is truly changing the engagement side of sports, where more and more people are now focused on these games because they actually have some money riding on it. And maybe it's the reason why they'll watch more, the reason why they'll go to more games, the reason why they'll go to sports bars, why they'll sit around with their friends in their basement and watch the games, because maybe they'll have a little more than just a rooting interest. That they may have $20 on the game, they may have $5 on the game, who knows, or more. You just never know. But these types of opportunities, you can now do things. The other thing which is fascinating, what's happening within the sports betting industry, is most people in America think that you have to bet on the game before the game starts. Well, here's the interesting thing. In Europe, once the game starts, that's when the fun begins with sports betting. You can bet in-game, and over 75% of all bets in Europe are in-game bets. Here in America, that's pretty much unheard of. You got to get that bet in before the kickoff, before the tip-off, before the puck drops. I mean, you got to rush to get that. No, not anymore. Now, as the game's going, you can bet in-game. So that's changing. That's changed here in America. And what's happening? So, coming up on tomorrow is August 1st. It's the first NFL preseason game for this upcoming season, the 2019 season. And you have states that have in-game betting for football. There's a little bit last year. There's a lot more this year.
Wow.
And so that's going to happen this year. So you can bet as the game's going. You can switch sides. You can do whatever you want. I mean, there's all sorts of really unique things. And by the way, many of these innovations, many of these new changes are being brought about from the entrepreneurs, from the innovators in the industry who are really, really looking to push the limits and change the game. So going back to something you said earlier, I mean, you think about this. Who would have ever believed that some guy named Jeff Bezos was going to start a company, that people were going to buy books? We're just buying books on this Amazon thing. But think about it today. We're at a world where probably, each of us buy at least one thing a day from that person.
Definitely.
Unbelievable. Pretty much all across the country, someone's buying something from Amazon in a household at least once a day, maybe once a week. But, I mean, the way his numbers are, it's probably...
I got my library there.
It's probably once a day, right? So it's incredible. And you think about that. So you think about that back in the 90s and this idea that where was Amazon, where was Facebook, where was Google? We couldn't live without those types of things today. What are those types of companies that are being built today by the kinds of entrepreneurs today to create those kind of businesses that are things that we do, that are part of our daily lives? And we believe here at 76 Capital that sports is in the center of everyone's lives. It's in the center of our communities. It's a place where it's all about because look, you go to sports games, sports bars, sports, youth sports. Yeah. It's where you eat. It's where you drink. It's where you play. It's where you just hang out. I mean, it's really become the center of the universe. People want to be fit. People want to be involved in all this stuff. So there's all these really, really interesting, trends that are that are coming all together. And technology is really the thing that's pulling it all together. And that's something that we know a lot about.
It's like you're so far ahead because if it's the center of everything, and it's being disrupted by technology, then it makes sense. 76, it's a reinvention of the country and reinvention of business and reinvention of everything in this sports-specific niche that you're focused on. It's like what me, as a layman, just learning right now how much I've learned in the last.
Pretty smart guy.
Well, I thank you. And we can thank Jeff Bezos for having the books on Amazon, right? So actually on books, because this is really where I feel like a takeaway for people watching this can really get value continually from yourself would be 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel. And your book. Why did you write the book, and what should people know about it, and then how can it serve them?
Well, so I wrote my book, because truly the idea was to give back and help others. I was fortunate to sort of find my way, figure out how to do this, figure out why thinking like an entrepreneur every single day was so important, why it was so important to go out and network and make as many contacts as possible and turn those contacts into relationships. And then fortunately, I was taught by my parents that it was so important to help others and give back. That's what I believe is incredibly important. I think in all those things, if you bring all those three things together, the entrepreneurship side of things, the networking and giving back, that you can actually really be a great person as well as a really good business person. And to me, I felt like I had learned something. And I wanted to share that with others. And I wanted to help others. And that's why I wrote my book.
So someone must pick this up today. What's one thing that they can do actionably tomorrow to hopefully grab on to a percentage of all of these many years of success and development that you've created for yourself to literally reinvent an industry, which you're doing right now? What's something that they can do? What's something that they should know?
My number one tip that I share with people all the time is to get up off the couch and go. And just go make it happen. And go out there. Because I see so many people who talk about it. They read about it. They study it. They research it. They're on their computer. You got to go out there. You got to go talk to people. You got to go see if it actually your idea is working. You got to go if you want to get a specific job. You got to go make it happen. You know, it's not just going to happen just by going on LinkedIn, and it's not just, which I believe is so important that you use all the digital tools out there. But you really need to go out there and meet other people. And you have to be able to, because you can share so much more if you actually meet somebody. So how do you do that? Where do you go? What do you say? And these are the many, many things that I talk about in my book, about thinking about how you can actually successfully do it. Because you can't just walk around aimlessly. You can't just go show up anywhere, right? But where can you go? Where your chances... Look, you may end up going out and going to networking events or going to specific conferences for your industry, and it may be a complete waste of time. So I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to work every time, because it's not. It absolutely won't. Just like all the companies we invest in, they're not all going to work. They're not every single one of them is going to be, and it will go public, and not every single one of them will be a successful company. But we're going to try really hard. But if you're actually out there and you're trying really hard and you're actually taking a night, for example, and instead of just sitting on your couch and watching TV or watching a show on Netflix or something or other, and you're actually able to go and say, you know what, I'm going to go to that networking event, and I'm going to try to meet every single person in that room. I'm going to go in there with my right pocket filled with business cards, and my whole goal is going to empty that right pocket and fill up my left pocket and see who I meet. And I would almost guarantee that you will meet somebody in that room that's of interest to you, or potentially alternatively, someone who's actually interested in you. They could be interested in you, and they may be someone that says, wow, let's do something together. You may find a business partner in that room. You may find a boss in that room. You may find someone that you want to hire in that room. Who knows? Who knows? But if you don't go and you don't get up off that couch, I promise you, you will not find your future. It won't happen. You've got to get out and go and try. You have to. You have to put it out there. And you know what? It is so hard. It's hard. It's mind-boggling at times. It's scary. Because like we all, no matter how confident you are, you get nervous.
Yeah. And
so that's one of the reasons why I say, if you have your business card in your right pocket, right? If this business card's in your right pocket, which again, I after I get dressed every single day, I fill my right pocket with business cards. This business card.
I better take it after this.
Absolutely. This business card it's an incredible icebreaker. It's an incredible way for you it's a crutch. It's a great way for you to just get the confidence to be able to walk up to somebody and say, hi, my name is, here's my card. And that's amazing. It's an amazing thing, and it's something that has worked for me in so many different settings. And
Wayne,
I believe in it, man.
this is extraordinary today. For someone with such vision and discipline and character, I really appreciate today, and I look forward to learning more from you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been great. Appreciate it.